All right, it's 5:30. I'm calling the meeting, the March 13th meeting of the Alameda County Water District Financing Authority to order. Roll call, please.
Directors Akbari. Here. Gunther.
Here.
Sethy.
Here.
Weed. Fernandez.
Here.
And Huang.
Here. Before we go to salute to the flag, should we do housekeeping?
Yeah, I don't think we have any members of the public with us right now.
Okay, then I will skip the housekeeping portion. Then let's move on to salute to the flag. Director Gunther, would you do the honor, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is public comment. We do not have any members of the public attending in person. And can you verify that there's no one online? Okay, thank you. Then let's move on to item 4, consent calendar. Do I have a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
I'll make the motion to adopt the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Directors Akbari. Aye. Gunther.
Aye.
Sethy.
Aye.
Weed. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Huang.
Aye. Thanks. Okay, let the record reflect that Director Weed is attending in person at 5:32 p.m. And we will give you a few seconds to settle before we move on to the action calendar. Do you need more time?
Thank you. There's always one who doesn't get the memo. 5:30 versus
We did have an
6.
early start today.
Just finished.
Okay, so next item is item 5.1. Is there a staff presentation for this or?
Just a brief staff overview.
Okay,
This item's a resolution amending the bylaws of the Alameda County Water District Financing Authority. Last month, both the Water District and Union Sanitary District approved amendments to the joint exercise of powers agreement that forms the financing authority. And one of those changes specifically authorized USD to appoint an alternate representative to the Financing Authority Board of Directors. And so what this item would do is make conforming changes to the bylaws of the authority. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
questions or comments from the board? Seeing none. We still do not have any members of the public. Then with that, do we have a motion?
I'll move staff recommendation.
Second,
Second.
roll call, please.
Directors Akbari. Aye. Gunther.
Aye.
Sethy.
Aye.
Weed.
Aye.
Fernandez.
Aye.
And Huang.
Aye. Item 5.2, please.
Great. So this is the main item on the agenda this evening for the Financing Authority. And before we jump into this item, one of the big things that determines how much it costs us to issue bonds is our credit worthiness. And so I'm pleased to report to the board that we were recently notified by both S&P and Moody's of obtaining a AAA rating from both of those rating agencies. We have for a long time had a AAA rating from Standard & Poor's, but this represents an upgrade from Moody's from AA1, which is their second highest rating, to AAA. And we joined East Bay Mud as the only 2 water agencies in the state of California to achieve a AAA rating from Moody's.
Woo-hoo!
So, yes, exciting for us, and hopefully, this puts us in the best possible position to get the best deal we can for our customers. Okay, so this item is a resolution authorizing the issuance of water system revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $63,185,000 and approving and directing the sale and approving the publication of a notice of intention to sell relating to the water system revenue bonds and authorizing the distribution of an official notice of sale for the purchase of such bonds and the execution and delivery of an installment purchase contract, a trust agreement, an escrow agreement, and an official statement, and approving the distribution of a preliminary official statement in connection therewith and related actions. So it was a mouthful, but there are a lot of actions before the authority this evening to approve that go into issuing bonds. And so our current plans, as was reviewed during our rate setting process, is to issue $35 million of new money revenue bonds, as well as refunding approximately $23 million of our outstanding Series 2015 bonds if market conditions allow for that. Based on today's market conditions, it would allow for a partial refunding of the 2015 bonds. Hopefully, market conditions will become more favorable over the next couple of weeks, but you never know how these things will work out. And so with that introduction to the item, I will turn the time over now to Sydney Alm, who will kick off the staff presentation. And we also have Darren Hodge from PFM Financial Advisors on Zoom with us, who will also share in the presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Wonderlick. Good evening, members of the board. So I'll quickly provide an overview of the 2025 bond issuance, look at the financing detail, as well as the projected results. So those are the three items that we'll cover. Right, next slide, please. So just an overview. So as mentioned, the series 2025 includes a $35 million in new money issuance. That's to fund our capital program. Also refund the series 2015 bonds, which currently has an outstanding balance of $23 million. Request both the Financing Authority Board and the ACWD Board later this afternoon, and now with the Financing Authority to approve the bond documents, and we're planning for a competitive bond sale. The target pricing date right now is March 25th. There's no impact or no effect on the outstanding Series 2022 bonds with the current outstanding balance of $39 million. Some financing detail. So the district is planning to issue up to, so this is the up to amount of $63.2 million in a fixed rate bonds through a competitive sale. This would be a tax exempt bond. Refund the outstanding 2015 series bond and fund $35 million of certain capital improvement projects. And we have identified the projects that listed here on this the screen. These projects with the amount are also included in the tax certificate. So there we have identified the expenditures that had already happened. The board approved the resolution reimbursement to reimburse past expenditures. So among these 5 projects, is accumulated total expenditures slightly over $35 million. So there wouldn't be any net proceed from the new money portion of the bond issuance. The refunding of the Series 25 bond, I know you heard earlier at the current market condition, it'd be a partial refunding of that, but we'll see. As you said, the targeted pricing is March 25th. So the market condition may change, so we'll look at it up to the minute before pricing. It would not extend the maturity date of the 2015 bonds. As far as security, you heard about the ratings. So this bond requires net revenue pledge. So the bond is similar to our current bond. There's going to be 2 interest payments, one in June and one in December, and a principal payment. This would be budgeted as part of our budget schedule for the June 1. It would be a 30-year bond issuance issued with priority claim on the net revenue to the Series 2022 bond. So same net revenue pledged to both 2025 series and 2022 bonds. Rate covenant set in the bond documents can be set at 1.25. So net revenue compared to our annual debt service at the minimum is going to be 1.25. But as you know, the board set a target of 2.0. And as you see later when we go to the projected result, we're well over that. And that's one of the reasons why the district, Moody had upgraded the district's credit rating. We have additional bonds tests of 1.25 as well. So we have a couple of documents that support the additional bond test requirement. So these shows the projected operating result. You'll see here through the current fiscal year 24-25 through fiscal year 28-29. There's total revenues. Again, this is with built-in assumption, assume rate increase that the board had discussed throughout the rate setting process. Total expenses that built in all the assumptions, water purchase, as an example, labor, that's all been built into here based on the assumption that we know now. With the net revenue of ranging from 28 million for the current fiscal year all the way to 47 million in fiscal year 28-29. As you see here, this breakout or debt service with the existing debt service of 5.9 million. That's include the 2015 and the 2022 bonds. The 2025 debt service of 2 million, that's the one we are talking about right now. As we discussed, part of the rate setting process, we're looking at a plan issuing in 2027. The annual debt service for that particular issuance would appear under fiscal year 27-28, a year after a plan issuing. And then the 29 issuing, the debt service would be the following year after that. So, yes, sir.
Can I ask a quick question
Certainly.
or a couple? So what drops off the books at 2028-29?
The existing debt service,
Yeah,
going from 5.9 to 4.3.
right.
So the 2022 debt structure was structured so that there's a 5 million is more payment upfront. And then as we go down to the, I believe after about 7 years, it will drop off. So we structure the bond so that the debts, the annual debt service would be higher in the first about 5 years. So that reflects in the debt service payment.
If I may, actually, the new money in the 2022 bonds is level debt service over the term of the bonds. But with the 2022 bonds, we also refunded the 2012 bonds. And the structure of the 2012 bonds was maintained with the refunding. And that structure included a step down in the debt service at that point in time.
So at about 15 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And is the pricing date separate from the bidding date on the bonds?
That's the bidding date.
That is the bidding date.
Yes.
So I would ask that you inform the Finance Committee, Director Weed and I, about that event. We have been in the past up early in the morning to witness the bidding that's going on, and I would very much like to be there again.
Well, I think Darren Hodge from PFM has heard that, and he can share the details with us. It could be very early in the morning,
I know, I've been here at 5 a.m.
and it's very unexciting. But
Actually, I do find it exciting. So.
But we will be sure.
I would like to be here again.
Yeah, we'll be sure to notify you of the details for that.
Thank you. All right, so no more questions, Director Sethy?
No,
Okay, moving on.
Thank you. Yeah, just the bottom line, the debt service coverage there, as you see, this is the projected based on the assumptions that built into here. So it's 4.7 the current year all the way to 5.2. So that's well, or 5.02, well above the target debt coverage ratio of 2.0 set by the board, as well as the 1.25 set in the bond covenant. So that concludes my portion of the presentation, and I will turn this over to our financial advisor, Mr. Hodge.
Good evening. Thank you, Sydney. So first off, again, congratulations on the upgrade to AAA from Moody's. It's a great accomplishment and should help us as we proceed here with pricing of the Series 2025 bonds. So if we turn to the first slide, just going to provide a quick overview of some of the details of the two components of the 2025 bonds. The first is the refunding component, where we're refunding up to 22.1 million of the outstanding Series 2025 bonds. This refinancing is being accomplished solely for the purpose of lowering debt service cost. We're not going to be restructuring or pushing debt out at all. It's strictly to lower future debt service payments. Now, as of rates when we ran this, PV savings were estimated at approximately $1 million. And it's worth noting that the refunding, it's really going to be subject to market conditions the day that we price. So even though we're estimating $1 million of PV savings as of the time of these numbers, it's really dependent on what market rates look like when we price on the 25th. The second element to the 2025 bonds is the new money bonds. That's where we're going to be funding $35 million of CIP needs. As discussed in the past, these are being structured as 30-year level debt service. And at the time that these numbers were run, we were estimating a TIC on the new money component of approximately 4.06%. Next slide, please. So in terms of market conditions, just wanted to provide a quick update. Over the last 2 weeks, we've had two similar transactions priced. 2 weeks ago, Molten-Niguel Water District priced. And Molten-Niguel is AAA from S&P, AAA from Fitch, not rated by Moody's. And Sacramento County priced last week at AA-. Both transactions around the $50 to $70 million range. So relatively comparable to what we're looking at selling. Both experienced very strong investor demand. This week, the market started off the week still feeling fairly strong. Yesterday, we had a little bit of an adjustment. So interest rates increased yesterday, really on the back of changing technicals. What I mean by that is that in the weeks leading up to this, we saw adjustments in municipal bond, or adjustments in treasuries without a corresponding adjustment in municipal bonds, and that lowered the ratio of munis to treasuries. And over the last 2 weeks up until this week, that had really been absorbed by the market because there was a lot of money flowing into the market due to redemptions at the beginning of the month, et cetera. What we saw yesterday was that there was a correction in the market because investors had just decided that the ratios had gotten too rich for their blood. And so they wanted an adjustment to the municipal market index. And part of the reason that the market wasn't able to absorb that is because we have a large amount of redemptions coming in on the 15th. And so obviously, yesterday being ahead of the 15th redemptions, there wasn't enough money to absorb that. Today, in talking to various desks, the market feels a little bit more stable today. So good to see, and good to see this occurring and letting things play out a week and a half before we're looking to price. But in general, interest rates still fairly attractive. On what the graph shows right here, we show several things. We show interest rates a month ago in that gray line, 1 week ago in the red. And then as of February 25th, these were the rates, the current rates there. What you'll see if we looked at rates as of today, that blue line would be higher, a little bit closer to that gray line. Next slide. So in terms of the details of the refunding economics as they stood as of February 25th, at that time we were running numbers. It was showing PV savings of about $1.05 million. We were refunding all outstanding maturities. We reran numbers today, and several of the maturities are no longer producing savings at today's market. So if there are maturities not producing savings, we won't be including those in the refundings, but we were still healthy at about $990,000 of PV savings. Next slide. As it relates to the new money bonds, again, I think the key thing to look at here is the TIC. As of February 25th, our TIC was about 4.06%. Again, we're structuring these as level debt service, and the debt service that's being added onto our existing debt profile from the issuance of the $35 million is about $2 million a year. So this graph at the very bottom shows the longer term perspective from what Sydney was presenting in terms of even after the issuance of the new money bonds, our coverage is expected to remain very substantial. So again, supporting that upgrade to AAA by Moody's. If we turn to the next slide, I want to go through just a key summary of some of the key dates here as we move forward. So yesterday we received ratings. We're getting board and authority approval today. We will be posting the preliminary official statement and the notice of sale on Tuesday, the 18th. What this will allow us to do is the transaction becomes public at that point. And so we're able to send the documents over to post them publicly so that the underwriting desk can begin reviewing those, talking to their sales force, talking to potential investors. What PFM will be doing from the 18th to the 25th is periodically reaching out to the underwriting desk, making sure they're aware of the sale, answer any questions they have, etc. And then we will be selling the bonds on March 25th competitively. And then after the sale, bidding, pricing, all of the same process on the 25th, we'll be closing 2 weeks later on April 8th. So with that, happy to take any questions from the board.
Questions or comments from directors? Director Sethy?
I have one. In the past, as I recall, when we were doing the closing, we had like an escrow agent or something with US Bank or some other banking authority. What is that current relationship right now, and what is our expectation?
And so with the refunding, sorry, go ahead, Jonathan.
It's basically the same. We're still using the same agents there, and they'll continue to be involved in essentially the same way. But Darren, if you wanted to add some additional detail.
Nope, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, they're like the trustee of the sale.
Yeah, and they'll be actually listed in the documents as the trustee, and some of these agreements that are being approved, relate to them as the trustee. We haven't read the recommendation yet, but it also, to be clear, the actions in front of the board this evening also approved the payment of various entities that have been involved in this process out of the proceeds of the bonds. So the money never really flows through the district, but the board action will approve that. And that includes the trustee, our bond counsel, our financial advisor, and a number of other folks that have been involved.
So just to make doubly sure, the trustee is US Bank, not our normal banking.
Correct. It's not JP Morgan, who's our normal bank. I believe US Bank is the trustee actually for our reserve funds invested by our third-party investment portfolio manager. So we do have other relationship with them.
Right, yeah.
But this is with a different group, I think, within the bank, and a specific contact person that's been involved with us in a number of calls and things leading up to this point in time.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure there's no conflict of interest in representation or anything.
No.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Director Wee?
My understanding is we're not seeking insurance on this bond, and is that supported by the current market?
Yeah, that's correct. And I'll let Mr. Hodge speak to market conditions and not seeking insurance.
Yeah,
And next,
absolutely.
Go ahead.
Sorry. So John's absolutely correct. We will not be seeking bond insurance. The main reason being that the rating on the bond insurers is lower than the rating of the district. And so there would be no economic benefit to using insurance at this time.
So is the US government a lower bond rating?
It's called self-insurance.
And next, the council, bond council, will we have any direct contact with the bond council, or they have reviewed and have they done their final sign off?
Yes, we've been closely engaged with bond counsel, and Mr. Savali and Mr. Guz from our bond counsel firm are both on Zoom this evening, should there be any specific questions. But I can assure you that they've been very proactively engaged with us as we've been working on this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Nope. Nothing? Director Fernandez, do you have any questions or comment? If not, do I have a staff recommendation?
Yeah, so the recommendation is by motion, adopt a resolution authorizing the issuance of water system revenue bonds in an amount up to $63,185,000 inclusive of issuance costs, with issuance costs to be paid from bond proceeds, and approving and directing the sale and approving the publication of a notice of intention to sell relating to the water system revenue bonds, and authorizing the distribution of an official notice of sale for the purchase of such bonds, and the execution and delivery of an installment purchase contract, trust agreement, and escrow agreement, and an official statement, and approving the distribution of a preliminary official statement in connection therewith and related actions.
Thank you. That's a mouthful. All right, we have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
Yes, from Director Sethy, I will move approval of this action item for approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second the finance committee.
All right, roll call, please.
All right,
Directors Akbari,
Aye.
Gunther,
Aye.
Sethy,
Aye.
Weed,
Aye.
Fernandez,
Aye.
and Huang.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Great job. And with that, let's move on to item 5.3, please.
Get my microphone back on there. Item 5.3 is a resolution modifying the date and time for regular meetings of the Board of Directors. When we met in January, we scheduled both March and April of this year's regular meetings in case for any reason we were not prepared to conduct the business in March. We didn't want to have to hold a March meeting solely for the purpose of scheduling an April meeting. Well, we're here in March, we've been able to conduct the business. So now the board has the option of canceling the April meeting and reestablishing the second Thursday of January at 5:55 p.m. as the date and time of the regular annual meeting of the Financing Authority. And so that's the recommendation in front of you. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments? Nothing? All right, then do I have a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion to adopt.
Second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Directors Akbari,
Aye.
Gunther,
Aye.
Sethy,
Aye.
Weed,
Aye.
Fernandez, and Huang.
Aye. With that, I'll call the meeting adjourned at
Actually,
5. What?
if I-
Sorry.
If I could make a couple of closing comments.
All right, go for it.
First, I'd like to thank Director Fernandez for being here and supporting us through this process. Second, I just wanted to come back and talk about the rating increase from Moody's very quickly.
Go for it.
We actually have less money in the bank now than we did 3 years ago when they gave us a lower rating of AA1. And so the upgrade is not about how much money we have, because sometimes there's this thought of maybe you don't want to be AAA because it means you're just sitting on so much of your customers' money. And that's not the situation here. I think the situation here is Moody's has really recognized the steps that have been taken by the board and the organization as a whole to be very proactive with our water resources planning. The fact that we've already built a PFAS treatment facility that's already operational, so we're getting ahead of regulations. They saw how well we managed through the recent drought, both from water resources and financially, and so they've really taken a very holistic look at the organization and our overall operations and planning, and not just how much money is sitting in our bank account. And this increase is really, I think, reflective of the great work being done by everybody at the district.
Thank you. Oh,
Thanks to staff.
yep, thanks to staff. Great job. All right, with that, last minute comment? Nope, okay, then we'll call the meeting adjourned at 5:58.